Welcome to Star Guys, a podcast about Stargirl on DC Universe and the CW. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And this is the bonus episode for the latest episode of the show, Shiv Part One. Very exciting episode. We're definitely going to spoil things here, and we're specifically going to spoil things because we have a special guest with us this time. It's Nelson Lee, who plays Dragon King / Dr. Ito on the show. Nelson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. You're terrifying anywhere you show up. It's great.
It's so much fun to play.
Yeah. Pete has been so excited to talk to you all week. You have been on the show, I think, probably a grand total of 1-ish minutes.
It's
than a few mentions.
Exactly.
Till now. But you immediately, like, all of us, we liked you, but Pete was like, this is the guy I want to talk to.
Awesome.
Pete, why was that? Why did you hook into Dragon King?
It's one of those things where when you have villains on TV shows, their presence, like how they kind of like make an entrance or their kind of the way they're shot or their whole look or whatever can be very intimidating.
Yeah.
And from the first time we saw the Dragon King, it was definitely like, holy shit, who the hell is this guy? You know?
Absolutely.
And for me, I grew up watching, a lot of cartoons. There was almost like a combination of like Cobra Commander evilness.
Oh, yeah.
With that kind of like hood. And then the snake underneath it was kind of like Sergeant Serpentor. It was intense. And it was great the way they did it because it was like, we'll give you a little bit of the most evil character you've ever seen on TV and then completely take him away. So the whole time you're just kind of waiting for it. Like, when are we going to get the Dragon King?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun, and it's funny when you said that about Cobra Commander. That's totally, the joke on set was always that I would just like do the Cobra Commander voice, like, Dragon King! it never failed to make everyone laugh, but...
When do we get to see the Cobra Commander cut?
That's in many ADR booths. Many booths where they've got that somewhere. I keep trying to talk them into letting me do it, but we'll see. Maybe in season 2.
That would destroy on Cameo. I'll tell you that
exactly. Much. It would change it a little bit if I started that way. In the beginning.
Oh man.
So I do want to ask you before we get into the episode proper about the look, because as Pete was mentioning, there's so much going on in the costume. It is taken from the comics, even though the character is kind of like two different characters that are smooshed together. But what was it like taking that costume, putting it on, getting on set for the first time?
I mean, it's amazing. And also we were like part of the process, like, trying on the suit was like months and months. You go in and over again. You're watching it grow. You see the initial thing. And the most amazing thing, I think all the costumes are amazing. LJ and the Super Suits team, like they're just so phenomenal at what they do. So much of the DC and so many other shows that they take care of. But like you saw it, the vision of it, and then to see it come alive, it was crazy. And it's just like it. Like you look at that, you look at this, and the detail, that's the thing you don't really notice on screen because it's so dark. But it's like there's patterns, there's like blood splotches that you just don't see, and that kind of detail is what makes it so epic and cool. But you put that on, and it was a process of the eyes, and then the makeup, and figuring out what works, and in the beginning, it was like literally I would just put on the suit, and I would just be drenched in 10 seconds. I was like, can we make this a little lighter? I mean, it's still hot, but it's way better than it was in the beginning. I mean, it's very easy to, be Dragon King. Just basically just wait him out. Give him like 15 minutes. He'll be on the ground in a pool of sweat.
It's easy to be evil when you're burning up inside.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he stays in a dungeon. He's not an outdoor in the sunshine kind of guy.
I'm struck on this show by how sort of like devastatingly evil the villains are. They're really much sharper and deadlier than I expected. What was it like when you were like just getting the script and after you'd booked the part and everything, like reading that? Did that surprise you? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, and in the beginning, like Dragon King, all I knew was really All-Star Squadron stuff, and then a lot of obviously in the Stargirl series. But so the script kind of goes off a lot away from that, but still has some of it in there, the core stuff. But so it was interesting to watch what direction Jeff and the other writers wanted to go with him, and also like there was like little bits of humor, even though he's like super evil and just crazy, and asking for bodies of of dead past ISA members. It was great, and it's just exactly what I expected. But at the same time, it's so fun to see them actually. You'll see it in Shiv Part One, the kind of humor they lightly write in, and the kind of humor you would expect from a guy in a hood that's 100 years old and just been experimenting on his daughter and all his friends.
Oh man.
Well, to jump into the episode, one of the things that I was really struck by in your performance, because you are masked the entire time, you're completely covered, including gloves, so much of the performance has to come through how you're physically interacting with Magda Laci and the other other actors on set. What was that like? How much work did it take to get those specific physical notes?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting process when, like we were talking about earlier, you put on the suit, so you have that, you have the look, and then you're like, oh, how do I move? You can't see me. You can't see, these aren't my eyes. These aren't, you can't barely make out, there's no facial expressions. And then you put in the voice. Once we found the voice, then we started just playing around, and Jeff and everyone was just fantastic and gave us so much freedom in like finding it. And there were some hilarious choices that obviously were thankfully cut out. They saved me, but and just play around, and you find your groove, and you find how to really convey, and you find like a lot of stillness, even though you'd want to do a bunch of stuff, like stillness in that kind of outfit. You have to trust that it does so much work, for you. You put that on and it's already talking. It's doing so much, and you just have to kind of respect that, step back and just like honor the words and everything else and the situations that you're doing. Because if you try to do too much, it's just like a hat on a hat on a hat. Yeah. Like literally.
Definitely with you. There's a lot of, at least a hood on a hood, I guess you could say.
Exactly. Hood on a hood.
It's in this episode, like, you get to do some dadding, some pretty hardcore dadding. Yeah. And I love the transition from like straight up monster to like, actually, can you just be a good daughter for a second here? I'm stressed out right now. Like,
exactly.
What is that like? That finding the differences between that tone and like hitting those comedy moments. Like, what's that like?
I mean, it's so amazing that they allow him to, because in the beginning I thought, like you said, you read the script, it's like, oh, he's just going to be super dark. You're like, oh no, there's some levity here, and it's necessary because otherwise it can just get too heavy. And I think it's built in that I am this layered, dwelling, a crazy scientist that's experimenting, and I have a daughter in high school who's like, trying to be popular and like get the boys, and so it's funny, and I'm just trying to be a good dad, and I think at the heart of him he actually is, but I don't think he really sees much except like, what do you mean you need me to say I love you? I created lots of things for you. Look at the suit.
Not be in our room right now. This is our room.
Yeah, exactly.
Go out of here. Go back to your room.
It just would be always fun to do a little spin-off of like Dragon King and Shiv. Oh, Shiv.
But it's funny. It's funny that you brought that up because it was such a fun line to deliver. Like, what do you mean? I gave you superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, what more do you want from me?
Exactly. It's like, I gave you the best thing I could give you. I gave it to me. I didn't give it to Daryl over there. Look at him. He sucks. I could have given it to him.
Did you name all the henchmen? Did they all have different names?
We did because, and because they all look the same. And actually one of the best rap gifts I ever got was the guys, two of the guys on my super suit team that were responsible for holding me up, getting me buckled in every day, which was a long and difficult process. They gave me a plaque, and we made a joke about it early on, that has a picture of one of my minions, and it says Employee of the Month, Kevin. And it's so good. I'll eventually able to post that, but it cracked me up so much because I wanted just a whole wall of different, the same picture, different names of my minions of the month.
So funny. What is it like working with Magda Laci? Because again, you had most of your scenes with her in the episode.
I mean, she's fantastic. The great thing about the team that they've put together is like every actor is so perfect for their part. and Meg's perfect, and we got along great. And I think she brings a real kind of like tenacity and crazy and just like evilness that, you know, even as a high school girl, and then you see a mean girl morph into really, really mean villain girl. It's really cool to see that transition. And I think it's a lot of fun to watch her play. And then you put her into a father-daughter situation, and it's been a lot of fun. And it gets even better and better as the father-daughter relationship kind of deteriorates as it goes on. So I'm trying my best, guys. But I've got a lot of things to build. I've got a lot of things to build. Sometimes you got to drop a couple things.
But I'll tell you what, your daughter's nasty. Like, I don't know what she did, but she's sort of scarier than you. You've passed it on well.
She is. She really, exactly. I did my job. Yeah.
I mean, this is getting into teasing for the next episode a little bit, but it certainly seems like with Cindy taking the costume, attacking Stargirl and everything, that's going to complicate a relationship more in terms of her goal trying to get on the ISA as well as with her father.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. And, you know, as a man who's 100 years old, I think time is an interesting thing to him. And I think patience, that's the thing that makes him so interesting. He's just so like methodical and patient with everything he does. And the fact that his daughter can't even wait to put on the costume that he's made, to take the staff, all these things, like, what are you doing? I told you I was going to give this to you soon. Not yet. I had a plan, you know, and I think that's something that just doesn't compute with him and makes him furious, because at the end, he is still a super powerful supervillain. So, and I think that's the thing, no matter how tough you are, your parents always have that kind of thing that you can beat, like you can't really beat up your dad. You know, you're always like, or can you?
Now, he's been alive, Dragon King's been alive for 100 years. What was he doing in like the 60s and 70s? Was he like sort of out
just
there?
tripping out, man, just tripping out. He disappeared like Hot Asbury area for about 4 years, and then he came back. But yeah. He did a lot of psychedelics, man.
I'm wondering what the coolest part for you as an actor. I mean, you've done like a lot of cool things, you know, in Claw, you were in Blade, you know, you got to act with Ice-T.
Yeah,
like for you, what?
Not sure if you're aware of what Pete's very specific interests are.
Yeah, I love it.
But like, getting a script like this, what was the thing to you that was the coolest? Was it when you got to see with the full makeup? Was it just like, oh shit, I'm playing the Dragon King? Like, what was the coolest thing for you?
You know, I'll be honest. Like, when I first heard from Jeff, he called me. I was shooting Mulan in New Zealand, and I spoke to him. And I knew about this, obviously, Stargirl, when he had talked about it to me and Neil when we were on Blade. And, you know, the tragic story of his sister, and it was, you know, heartbreaking, but at the same time empowering that he was able to turn that into this material. And to hear that he was asking, and, you know, I hadn't heard from Jeff in a while. We were always great friends. And to hear him, and then he was like making that, I was like, oh, what? And then he said, I would love you to come out for Dragon King. And I'll be honest, at that point, I didn't know anything about Dragon King. I hadn't read All-Star Squadron. I knew him only from the comics after I researched and read all of Stargirl. And so it was really just the opportunity to go work with Jeff again. And then when I heard that Neil Jackson was coming as well, I was like, this is perfect. This is so awesome. And it was my first day on episode 4 was with Jeff and Neil. And it was emotional. Like, I think me and Neil have been talking about it a little bit, but it's the truth. Like, it's cool. Like, you know, back then, you know, Jeff was writing on it. Neil was the baddie. I was a sidekick. And to come, you know, that much, you know, 15 years basically later and be on a show together, especially one that means so much to Jeff, makes it mean that much more to us. And then we also get to play, and that's the thing. Like, you look around, I'm in a Dragon King suit. He's Mr. Icy, and then I get Jeff over there, and it's just hard not to smile.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. I did want to ask you about, sort of on a similar note, and it sounds like there was at least a little bit of this. We've talked to some of the members of the JSA, and they clearly really bonded off set. They all lived together. For the ISA, did you guys have kind of the same thing, or was it because everybody's at odds, not quite the same bonding experience?
Well, you know, the great thing about, and it is always a crapshoot of, you know, the synergy of a cast, and it's great that this cast just really did get along. Like they loved each other. And I thought that it was so well cast that everyone fit their role perfectly as well. And the kids obviously had their amazing love fest. And that was, you can see that on screen. You saw that off and you would hang out with them. But the ISA, we were the old folks and we all did hang out. I mean, Neil Jackson and Chris Baker, they were roomies together. So, Brainwave and Icicle were always hanging out. We went to their pool for July 4th and barbecues. And so we did totally bond, but in like the old people way. We did a lot more like drinking Jameson at bars than the kids were maybe going to do more fun stuff. But we always were trying to get us all to come together to do karaoke, but we never did. But we did do one night where we all went out for medieval times because one of our stunt guys was the Red Knight, I believe. I think he was Red Knight, and it was so much fun. I'd never gone and only seen a cable guy, and of course wanted to like live that awesome life. But it was so much fun to do that.
Did you go there in full costume?
We did not, unfortunately. We got to let the knights shine. That's their night.
Also, they don't let you just walk out with the costumes out. I don't know if you can just wander around.
I don't know. Sorry, guys.
Wait, so was the Red Knight like the janitor guy? Because he had that big sword.
Yeah, Mark is everywhere. He's just in every show. You just don't know it. He's in Star Trek. He's in X-Men. He's just always back there with his janitor outfit.
Another fun aspect of this episode was directed by Lea Thompson.
Yes.
First day on set, which she was like, all right, get your questions out of the way. Come on, let's ask all the questions you need to ask about Back to the Future and everything, and then let's move on. Or how did it work? What was she like as a director?
Amazing. Lea Thompson is so amazing, so awesome. And I think everyone did, but I froze. And I have this terrible thing when I get starstruck. I just like completely shut down and pretend I don't know what they've done. And it's so stupid. Inside, I'm screaming like, shut up, you idiot. Because like, I remember I was just eating lunch and she came in front and said, can I sit? And I was like, yes, sure. She sat and I was like, how do you like directing? Like stuff. I'm like, you're so stupid, Nelson. Ask her something about Back to the Future. But she's so lovely and she was so great and she had such a great eye. And speaking of eyes, I managed to poke hers out because Dragon King's main move is hugging people after a take and stabbing them with my collar. I've done that. I did that to Lea Thompson. And yes, I don't think she'll forget that. And I've done that to Jeff many times.
You can direct with one eye. It's fine.
Exactly. 2 eyes are overrated.
Yeah, you got to blink one anyway to look through the lens, right?
Yeah, but she was great. And, all of us were so, like, just fanboying out. It was so cool to have her on set. And the episode is awesome. She did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, before we let you go, what can you tease about what's coming up with Dragon King? Obviously, we're like halfway through the season at this point. Things are starting to heat up with the plan. We got Shiv Part 2 coming up, but I imagine big things are coming for Dragon King, not just with his daughter, but also he's gathering up all those dead bodies, everything going on in the background.
Yeah, eventually we're gonna start seeing really what the plan is. We're gonna and that right now, because right now you just think that it's Icicle's the main man, but there's a whole bunch of moving parts, and a lot of it is what Dragon King's got building in that layer of his, and what that machine will inevitably do to Blue Valley and perhaps the world. We don't really know, but so it's a really massive. It's a lot larger. It's going to get revealed what we're planning to do, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then leading up, of course, to the big old finale, and that finale will not disappoint. It's so cool. It is like amazing. I remember being around when we were shooting, and just like, oh my God, just watching this, it's just so cool. And I think that's the great thing about the show. They've done such an amazing job. Our stunt team is second to none. They make us all look so good. Yeah. They're amazing. Just recently that amazing Sportsmaster fight and Tiger's fight was so cool. And the thing is, we've all seen like pieces of it, Neil and Joy showed it like to us with their wires. But when you see it like that and you see what those stunt people were able to do, and Neil and Joy, it's so cool. And I can't wait for everyone to see what happens near the end and seeing, Dragon King's arc and what happens between him and his daughter. It gets nasty.
It does strike me that someone like Dragon King who's lived for 100 years wouldn't be content with just conquering a small Midwestern town.
Yeah. He's like, let's think bigger, everyone.
We control this gas station and traffic light.
Perfect.
Awesome. Nelson, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. You're doing an incredible job. You're really scaring Pete a lot. So good luck with the rest of the season. For all of you out there, if you would like to support our show, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Check that out. Socially, Star Guys Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show. comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and more. For the Star Guys, bye-bye.
Bye.